Good morning. Good morning. Happy Friday out in streaming world. It has been a long week, Ted. A lot of things happening around the world, in my life, in your life. You touched back down on Earth after a jaunt in space. And I think the viewers are happy to see you back. We're
You
happy.
think?
The show's happy to.
They
The
don't
show is
say it,
happy to
though.
have you back.
They don't say it. They're like, it's kind of like, it's like being
Ted's
married
back.
and coming into your home. It's like,
Oh, he's home.
yeah, it's here. It's back. Shit. You might get missed after. This is like, Mark Twain was really onto something when he was like, he had Tom Sawyer attend his own funeral, and he was like, it was so gratifying. Everybody was so sad he was dead, right? And it's like, I think that's the only moment like a leftist is ever appreciated, like in the obits of the New York Times, like
he's dead now.
So Bob Herbert was a columnist at the New York Times, and when Howard Zinn, the big lefty who wrote People's History, he died. Bob Herbert basically did this effusive obit, like, oh, we were good buddies, we hung out all the time. I'm like, what? Like, you had a column in the Times. You never mentioned his books. You never talked. You never said, oh, Howard Zinn says.
No shout outs.
No shout out, right? And I ran into Bob Herbert at a convention, and I'm like, what's with that? Like, you remind me of this guy I knew in fourth grade who always liked to walk home from school with me to my neighborhood. And he's like, yeah, but don't, you're my best friend, but don't tell anyone at school because I don't want to be seen with you. And I was like, fuck you. God. And I never had anything to do with him ever again, right? Of course. He was very surprised. Like, oh, what? I don't understand. But that's maybe
the viewers like you on the DL.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, we have reason to think that.
It's like Joey in fourth grade.
I won't say what those reasons are, but we have reason to think that.
It's Joey from the fourth grade. It's just all over again.
It's Joey. Yeah. Hey, Joey. Eat shit. Hope you're dead.
Totally best bros.
Hope you died of a painful disease involving a cactus in your buttocks.
I was gonna say I had a feeling it was gonna go towards the rectal unwell wishes, because I feel like that would be like the ultimate unwell wishing of somebody is
that's
something
true.
Bad, like something bad rectal related, colostomy bag. No, rectal. That's because then you get colostomy bag, all that would be horrific. I mean,
I don't know. What would you rather do? Would you rather spend the rest of your life with a colostomy bag, or let's say, I don't want to get too graphic here, like your genital stuff is all corrupted and gross and nasty and painful.
God, that is one of my classic. Would you like the poop sandwich or the poop salad?
Right. Which in Southeast Asia, the poop salad could well be on the menu. They do. What do they call that? Night soil that they use to fertilize. Yeah, which is it's human feces, I think. Yeah, so be careful when you're in Asia and you're in rural areas and you order a salad. Don't really, just don't.
Oh, I did not know that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about
mad E. coli situation.
Oh, I'm gonna have to think about the genital horrors or the rectal.
I mean, the thing is, if you have the colostomy bag, you're probably not going to get any action with your genitals anyway. So,
Yeah, I don't know. I never mulled that one over.
This is where doctor-assisted suicide comes into play.
This is one of those the worst would you rathers.
True.
It's horrible.
True.
No, I have to think about. I don't know. We'll ask the Rumble Room. We'll ask the YouTubers. Which would you rather? On this lovely Friday afternoon or morning, wherever you're watching.
Friday situation.
Friday. Would you rather? Ted wants to know. Would you rather live with a colostomy bag and otherwise be healthy, or would you rather have your junk be all infested with disease?
Right.
This is terrible. This is a terrible Friday conversation.
And I've known people with not both at the same time, but I've known people who have, had one or the other, and I don't know who is more miserable.
I don't know. That is cyanide pill time. I think
it's totally like calling her mom carrying. Goodbye.
I don't want to have to choose that one. So in case you guys didn't know, this is the Ted and Manila Information Show on a Friday, because this is just when we've had enough of the week.
Yeah, because we're deadly serious the rest of the week.
Well, I mean, it's because we talk about serious stuff like the whole week, and by Friday your brain just melts down. And I mean, I know we make light of, you have to, right, with all the seriousness of the world, but by Friday, brain has turned to mush. This is like my colostomy helmet in there. It's just like that's what's swirling around. And you just don't know how to process anymore by Friday, just with all the things happening this week. So the TMI show, we cover way too much information, including this weird would you rather for this Friday. And obviously not a straight-laced show. So if you're new to us, things go off the rails sometimes. But we do talk about news. We'll tell you the news, and then we will give you our assessments, our analyses, our commentary on it. And sometimes F-bombs fly. So join us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Please be sure to like and follow this show wherever you're consuming this weird content. And I promise we will get to some news right now. There's a lot of stuff to get to, but I'm glad we're ending on a happy note. We deliberately put in something happy at the end of the show. So there you go. All right, let's hop to it. Let's jaws this thing.
And here of course my computer glitches. There we go. President Trump says that Iran has received the American proposal for a nuclear deal. This after multiple rounds of negotiations between Steve Witkoff, who's Trump's Mideast envoy, and the foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi. The negotiations have gotten now into what they call the expert level. So, I'm 61 years old. I've never heard of this, but apparently it's a thing, meaning that the two sides are trying to see if they can reach any agreement on the details of any possible deal. But there is a sticking point: Iran's enrichment of uranium. Iran says it still wants to be able to continue to do that, for nuclear power and such. And the Trump administration says, no, you can't do that anymore. At nearly every event he attended in the region, Trump said that Iran can't have a nuclear bomb, something that the U.S. intelligence agencies like the CIA say that Iran isn't interested in doing anyway. And that's long been the case. Iran just doesn't want a nuclear weapon. They could have one if they wanted one. They don't want one. Anyway, a reporter asked him, on Iran, has the U.S. given them a formal proposal? Has Steve Witkoff handed that over? They have a proposal, Trump responded. But most importantly, they know they have to move quickly or something bad is going to happen. And I think we know what that bad thing would be. Bad. And we know exactly what kind of plane would deliver that bad thing that would have a six-sided star painted on the side of that plane, I think.
Or helicopters crash too,
Oh, well, that's true. But I think we'd be talking about a bombing of, an Israeli bombing of Tehran or a alleged nuclear power facility or lab or something like that.
Moscow would never let that fly. Literally.
Well, it's happened before.
But right? Not in Tehran though. Like a bombing campaign in Tehran that.
Well, not a bombing campaign, but they have done what they call surgical strikes, right? They've assassinated nuclear scientists, and but there was that crazy story where remember when they had the that remote control machine gun on the side of the road, and the nuclear scientist went by and then
crazy. That's
so
awful.
Yeah, the Israelis obviously have cultivated a lot of intelligence assets. We would call them traitors in Iran, and so that's a thing. Robbie needs to come on. So please pop him on. Robbie.
Hello, Robbie.
What's up?
That was late. No, I was just going to let you know, Ted. I like you. I'm glad that you're back.
I like you too, Robbie. And it's good to be back because of you.
It is.
Back on Earth.
I appreciate it. You keep me balanced. Bye-bye.
That was the thing here. Okay.
That was it? Oh, okay. Right,
that was it? Oh, okay.
That's great. Okay.
Okay. And by the way, there's some breaking news coming out of Istanbul, Ted, and I'll tell you, Russia and Ukraine have agreed to swap 1,000 prisoners of war.
Well, that's more than usual, right? But there have been Russian and Ukrainian prisoner swaps before. This is one of the big ones.
But this is a massive.
This might be the biggest one, yeah.
Yeah. Usually it's like in the couple of a dozen here, a couple dozen there.
After the Battle of Mariupol, right? The Russians captured a lot of Ukrainians.
And then those reformed Nazis just went back to the battlefield.
Well, Nazis got a Nazi.
No, they're reformed, Ted. Remember, just like head choppers be presidents now.
True.
It's 2025. People can change. Just saying.
Well,
all right.
Yeah, I mean, but apparently not if you're like an alleged Venezuelan gangbanger. Then you're not given any credibility.
That's for life.
By the way, speaking of that, I had this like I'm cheating about this. I did a cartoon for next week about this, but Manila, I just want to get your quick take on this side note. So Trump hangs out with the president of Syria. He hangs out with Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia. He hangs out. He accepts a gift of a plane, Air Force One 2.0 from Qatar. These are all countries where Judaism is illegal. Okay, like you're not allowed to practice Judaism. You may not create. If you are Jewish, you're not allowed to have a synagogue.
No Jewing it up over there.
No. Yeah, you can't be Jewing. So Judaism is illegal, and I don't know about you, but I don't think there's anything more anti-Semitic than banning the practice of Judaism. Right? That's kind of the definition of anti-Semitism. That's like uber anti-Semitism, right?
That's fair.
If, according to Marco Rubio, it is against U.S. foreign policy to be anti-Semitic, and it is U.S. foreign policy to deport people who are enabling anti-Semitism, like, for example,
like college
allegedly by protesting in favor of the people of Palestine on a college campus. Then
or calling people neocons.
Or calling people neocons. It would seem to me that even more anti-Semitic than, let's just say you're like, oh, I love Hamas, number one. It's much more anti-Semitic to ban Judaism than it is to be for Hamas.
Yeah.
So I think Trump and the whole administration, they need to self-deport. They need to get on that app, the CBP One app, and they need to collect that $1,000 and go to the airport and self-deport like right away. It's in the national security interest of the United States.
That just means President Trump can't come back here.
Oh, well.
Well,
he's friends with the El Salvador guy. Or he can go hang out with MBS and
I heard El Salvador is beautiful. I have neighbors who are Salvadorian and
no, by all accounts, it's a nice place.
Photos. It looks beautiful.
It's funny though, nobody wants to go visit now because everyone thinks they're going to be scooped up and sent to a gulag. Well, because it is a fascist state, right? So there's that.
Yeah, but if you're on the outside of the walls, there's apparently some beautiful beaches there, and the food is good. And
there's ecotourism where you can live up in the trees with like the monkeys and stuff.
For you straight dudes out there, I hear there are really beautiful women there.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah.
I heard that about Venezuela.
And I've heard that about Venezuela as well. So a lot of these central
I had a really gross friend, editor, who used to go.
No old male editor is gross, Ted.
He would rent Venezuela. He wasn't even old. He was old. He was young and gross. But he would go and rent the services of local Venezuelans.
Yes.
Stimulating the local economy.
Yes. Okay, well, all right. Back to Iran, because this is less sexy, I understand, what's on screen than talking about attractive Latino women. But
that's always of interest to me. But yeah. All right. Well, so Iran. So
So
all right. Well, I do think. Oh yeah. So did we finish this? No, we did not finish this.
No.
So Trump did not elaborate on the substance of the proposal. Iran didn't immediately say that they had received it, but they didn't deny it either. Yesterday, Ragchi spoke to journalists at the Tehran International Book Fair. I guess my invitation was lost in the mail with my new book out, What's Left, which everyone in Iran will enjoy. Anyway, he said that Iran hasn't received the proposal yet, but who knows who got it in the Iranian government. He also criticized what he called conflicting and inconsistent statements from Trump, describing the administration's comments as either a sign of disarray in Washington, gee, I think, or a calculated negotiation strategy. Witkoff at one point did say that Iran would be allowed to enrich uranium at 3.67%, but then later he said, oh, actually, no enrichment at all. So Aragchi said, kind of like sometimes we hear 2 or 3 different positions in a single day. I'm going to believe Aragchi on that. That sounds not unlike Trump at all.
Yeah. You think? So this whole Witkoff thing, he needs to be Trump's chief negotiator on anything and everything. Honestly, this, I mean, Witkoff is right now in Istanbul. And as we're discussing with our friends in the Rumble room with Adrian, for example, pointing out that Lindsey Graham is there, like a vulture. Nobody invited Lindsey Graham. Why is he there? Witkoff is there doing
there's
his
cute
thing.
Guys. You know what I mean?
In Istanbul, that's very true. But Witkoff could take a jaunt to Iran next. He's not that far away, right? Witkoff just needs to be the guy because he's not part of the swamp. Literally, he couldn't be less swampy, right? He's literally a New York developer. He just has nothing to do with politics. He got plucked out of obscurity because he's Trump's buddy, and Trump knows him probably to be a really good negotiator in New York real estate. And as you know, Ted, New York real estate is like a pugil match or a medieval duel, right?
True.
That is New York real estate. I remember I was in the real estate industry. I have girlfriends that are realtors out there, and it is worse than LA. It is cutthroat. And True. That's where this guy comes from. You have to outfox the other guy. But True. Do it nicely and do it in a way where everyone feels like they're walking away feeling good. And apparently Witkoff is good at that. So for circling this back to Iran, I think this is where we need to send Witkoff next, because the new mini deal that Trump is proposing now is effectively very similar to what Obama had brokered 15 years ago.
The one that I think, look, if Trump were being honest, he would admit that there was nothing really wrong with the Obama deal that he criticized so vociferously.
No, I think, and I've said this before, I think Trump only rescinded the deal because he just wanted to make a new one with his name on it. That's all. That's all. And by the way, we're looking at the hair dance in Abu Dhabi. I'm serious. Look. This is Trump leaving Abu Dhabi.
Is that did you ever see the hair dance?
Considering I lived there for a couple of years this, I've never seen the hair dance. I don't know. But I also live in Dubai.
Those Arab women, they have insane hair. It's so thick. It's it's so nice. It's I think they might have the best hair in the world.
They have the thickest, fullest black hair.
It's gorgeous.
But you never see it because it's under abayas, right? So
unfortunately,
I've never seen the hair dance. So I guess maybe it's only for very special occasions. I'd never seen that before. Anyway, this is Trump leaving, and the remarks he makes before he gets on Air Force One. The reporter asks him, as he's rounding out his trip. I guess he's not making the jaunt to Iran or Istanbul, but before he gets on old Air Force One, he makes a comment about, he's like, well, why wouldn't I want a jet from Qatar. It's a brand new, 2025 74, whatever, fully loaded, all the bells and whistles. He's like, I just so you understand, I'm about to step on this 42-year-old Boeing jet, and the president of the United States should not be getting on a 42-year-old Boeing jet.
Well, what about the White House? That's 225 years old. And
it's a very old house.
Very old house. And
very old house.
Doesn't just come down. A lot of presidents and dictators have far cooler palaces.
That's true.
And I'm just
Palace
wondering
in Abu Dhabi. Stunning.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, and there was fire damage.
True.
I don't know if that was ever repaired well. So I'm just wondering if maybe the Qataris will, or someone else will gift him a new luxury pad that he can keep if he ever leaves the presidency.
Yeah, that I don't know. But this is rounding off all the Middle East stuff. That's what's happening right now. Just a whole lot of nothing. I mean, Istanbul. I mean, if we put all eyes on the Middle East this week, Ted, it's all Iran, it's UAE, it's Qatar, it's Saudi. It's all eyes on the Middle East this week, and honestly, nothing has come of any of it. The only thing that's come of it is the Emiratis, the Saudis, and the Qataris being like, we're just going to spend trillions of dollars within the U.S. How they're going to do that, I don't know. Usually, I think you can translate that to we're going to buy a lot of American arms, right?
Yes.
We're going to buy arms, and in some of these guys' cases, we're going to buy. Okay, fine, we'll buy your Boeing jets. I know nobody's buying them, but fine, we'll buy those MAX 8 jets. We won't fly them.
Wait,
we'll just buy them.
Are they buying MAX 8s?
I don't know what they're buying. They just agreed to buy. Several of these countries agreed to buy Boeing. That's all.
Yeah, I bet no one wants MAX 8s.
No, but I mean, come on.
I mean, hello. Unless you
nobody wants them.
Unless you have a death wish.
So yeah, so I think that this caps off the Middle East week. This is a whole lot of nothing. No peace has come of it yet. I guess the 1,000-person prisoner swap is a move in a good direction. Certainly not an end or cessation of hostilities. And Iran looks like they're walking towards staying exactly where they were 10 years ago, Ted, with the same deal that they agreed to 10 years ago.
Yeah. And I guess the thing is, as usual, there's always Trump's threats. But what do you think that threat is? It's vague, but what do you think it is?
I don't think it's even a real threat.
You think it's just BS?
Yeah, I think it's all pure Trump bluster. I don't think there's anything to it because Trump, I don't know who's whispering in his ear lately, but I'm sure there are cooler heads than, say, a Keith Kellogg in his ear that are going to say, you can't do this to Iran. You can't actually do anything because if you do, there's sort of this pact they have with, Vladimir Putin. So,
well, they don't have a mutual defense. They don't have a mutual defense treaty, right? So they're not obligated. The Russians are not obligated morally or politically to come to Iran's aid, and they're not like buds the way that they were with Syria's Assad. I mean, those were long-standing. But Iran's always, I would say, had friendly relations with Russia. That goes way back to the Cold War.
Look, there would be some serious destabilization happening if the U.S. went holding hands with Bibi Netanyahu to go bomb Tehran. That would be worth it. It would be
an error.
Yeah. So I
know we disagree about this, but I think the Israelis have they're way out over their skis this time. And I did a deep dive on the polling, American public opinion. Opinion of support for Israel is at an all-time record low in the history of polling. Democrats, the vast majority of Democrats, support Palestine and not Israel. The numbers are dropping on the Republican side as well. So, I mean, I think Israel has cashed every check they can, and like that's it. No one cares.
I would agree. I think the veil has been pulled back from our relationship. Oh, I think you're muted, Ted. I think our relationship,
yes,
the power
so
structure.
The veil has been.
You want the hair dance back?
Yeah, let's have the hair dance. My hair dance isn't as impressive.
I think the veil has been pulled back about the power dynamic.
A bit of a hair dance, not like that.
But I think these were young girls doing the hair dance because the equilibrium isn't fully developed yet, right? And I'm serious. Look how young these girls are. They're like,
they are young.
Like teeny boppers. They're young. Because the older you get, I mean, I would walk away with vertigo. I can't do that. I can't do that in my mid 40s, Ted.
Mm-hmm.
I can't like rock out like I did to like Metallica, when I was like 19. Now at like pushing 45. That's not working. That would not work. 13 maybe, like these girls. Do the hair dance. Go
All
for
right.
it.
Remember, I have a hard out today, so we should
we gotta go. But
right.
the hair dance is fascinating. It really, I've never seen it. That's all we gotta say. All right. Here's the big juicy topic.
All right. For decades, the French government has talked up the value of something called collective European defense. This would be an alliance that is outside of NATO that guarantees European security. For decades, this was a completely theoretical point because the UK and Germany thought that NATO was too important and didn't want to discourage the Americans from remaining involved. But after the beginning of the Russo-Ukrainian conflict in February 2022, Europe's deep dependence on NATO became more of an issue. When Trump came back, that became even more of an issue because he's even called for getting rid of NATO or for the US getting out of NATO. France and Germany, along with Poland, have now announced some new mutual defense plans. But now there's two stories this week that sort of show exactly how difficult this would be to pull off. First, the European Commission is proposing that members of the EU be allowed to borrow against the EU budget. In other words, there's the national budgets of the EU 27 member states. I think there's 27.
Yeah.
That they can borrow against the big EU budget out of Brussels to buy up to $167 billion worth of weapons to help them counter potential threats from Russia. Newsflash, you guys can save all that money and like maybe work on poverty programs because the Russians aren't going to attack you. Okay.
They're not steamrolling.
The Russians ain't coming.
It's not.
Okay? You're wasting your time and your money.
Right.
Here.
They're spending money. But that's the thing, Ted. This is the whole point. It's a grift. They're trying to launder money towards a boogeyman that really is not there. Vladimir Putin is not under their freaking bunk bed. He's not there.
Interested. He's just not interested. Anyway, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen then told the European Parliament this week that in order to do strategic autonomy the French way, the money should only be spent on weapons that are made inside the EU, like make the EU great again, or allied countries like the UK, Norway, and Switzerland. Why buy American when you are supposed to be getting rid of NATO and telling Trump to fuck off? To be adopted, however, her plan would have to get at least 55% of the vote from the EU member states and 65% of the population of the EU. In other words, there would have to be a continent-wide plebiscite in order to figure this out. Good luck with that.
Good luck with 27 whole different countries jockeying with totally different goals. I mean, not some of these countries have overlapping and aligning goals, Ted, but sure. I mean, look, Hungary's goals and desires and designs for their people look very vastly different than what Germany wants.
And you're asking a Europe that has some major economic problems and you're telling people that they have to do austerity and lose their benefits and all that. But at the same time, hey, let's spend a sixth of $1 trillion to buy weapons to fight, nothing at all. So like, maybe not. Meanwhile, Emmanuel Macron, who inexplicably remains the president of France despite being less popular than herpes, France is the only member state with nuclear weapons. I guess I'd never given that any thought, but I guess, with the benefit of hindsight, it's probably a good idea that, say, Italy's not allowed to have nuclear weapons because they're so disorganized. But anyway,
I thought you were going to say
probably
because
only launched them at
Italians
11.
are so passionate.
They only launched them at 11 o'clock at night, right when dinner starts. Anyway, when they first get up.
That's true.
Anyway, they said this week that he's willing to discuss plans to put some of those weapons inside the borders of other EU members. Like, hey, we won't keep all the nukes. You can have some of our nukes, but
it's the Oprah plan. You get a nuke. You get a nuke. You get a nuke.
First of all, you have to pay. It's COD. France is not paying them to move them to Germany or whatever.
Always a catch, Ted. Always a catch.
And they're heavy. They're how like when you fill out the shipping slip at the post office, it's based on the size and the weight. I mean, nukes are big, so that could get really expensive. Redeployments can't be so large as to compromise France's own nuclear deterrent. In other words, we'll send you, our trash nukes, our Boeing Max 8 nukes. We're not going to send you the good nukes that France needs. And any decision to use these weapons would only be made by Emmanuel Macron. So let me get this straight. So it's like, I will offer you, Manila, to put TED nukes on Manilian territory, but you can't really use them to protect yourself unless you call me and I happen to be around to pick up the phone. I'm not in the shower. I'm not playing with Clovis. And if I'm around and I'm in a good mood, and you and I are getting along really well, and I'm in a good mood, and then I'm like, okay, Manila, all right, wait. you can take the nuke out for the weekend. You have a good time. Bring it back with a full tank.
Hold on. So that's what it is like, I would pay you to warehouse the TED nukes.
To ship for me to ship it to you.
Just to house your TED nukes.
Right.
I'm not entitled to use them.
Nope.
And then for every step, if I wanted to relocate it, if I wanted to shoot one up into the stratosphere for fun, I would have to get your solid written verbal whatever commitment that it was okay to do.
Yeah, I'd have to go on the DocuSign. You have to I click every little thing. Yeah.
So I get that this is Emmanuel Macron's brainchild, his idea, because you and I have talked about this before. I've talked about it on all my old shows, that Macron, ever since his first term, like the first year of his first term, he has floated this idea, right, of this European only NATO.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you say European only NATO, what you're saying is fuck off America and fuck off Turkey, which is totally fine by me.
True.
But you're just basically saying it's NATO sans the US sans Turkey. That is what NATO actually ultimately is, right? So if he wants to have all of, just an EU group, a white Europe for a white Europe only, like, why not just go ahead and pitch that idea instead of starting a whole new group? Just go back into NATO.
Or just tell the US, hey, thanks a lot. Thanks, Dad. We appreciate the trillions of dollars that you spent on us.
Yeah.
But we're done with you. You can go now.
We're big boys now.
We can fly now. And see ya.
Rather than start a new thing and then dump trillions of dollars into this new organization.
And by the way,
parallel.
This article also leaves out a very important issue: French domestic politics. Right. So, I mean, Emmanuel Macron, like I said, is less popular than any venereal disease, and so he has no. So, but also, can you imagine, for example, given the fact that Germany likes to invade France every 40 or 50 years, like, oh, we're going to send our nuclear weapons to the Krauts. Like, really? Like, no. Okay. I mean, in every French city, town, and village, there's a war memorial some of my ancestors' names are written on one of them, that show all the people who've died fighting, France's wars. And yes, there have been some, the French, not to be left behind, the Americans have had stupid wars in Vietnam and in, Algeria. But most of their stupid wars have been fought and they're dying fighting Germans. So they're going to give nukes to the people who invaded them in 1848, 1870, and 1914, and in 1940. No.
Well, I mean, it's 2025, Ted.
The French are not going to put up with it. I'm just going to say there'd be Vive la Revolution.
The people, right? The
French people will not allow it. It's like
Macron might be okay with it.
None of those nukes can go to Germany, but Germany would want some. And then there's German politics, right? Like German people are very pro-peace. They're like, man, militarism fucked us up. We're not going back there. They don't want nukes either on their territory.
They're a very pragmatic people,
and it'll turn them into a target. Let's say there is a war.
Yeah,
well,
but Ted,
if those nukes are on German territory, or I don't know, whatever, Belgian territory, they're going to really, then whoever's attacking, Russia, China, whoever, they're going to attack those nuclear sites.
Let me add this in there, though. One caveat that I think is very important that I think you're failing to consider is all of these populations within the EU have been so completely propagandized.
That's true.
Heavily. The people in Finland and Sweden are convinced that Vladimir Putin himself is going to roll in on a tank and take over their country.
Finland was invaded by the Soviet Union. That did happen. Right.
But there's been peace there for 80 years, and not a strawberry blonde hair on any Finn's head has been harmed in 80 years. So, or almost 100 at this point. So,
yeah, but Finland's right there. It borders Russia. They were invaded 80 years ago. And in Russia, that's not. And in Europe, that's not a long time ago.
Finland was used by the Nazis as well to go into.
Oh, for sure. That's why the Soviets invaded.
So, so that's my whole thing is, I think we're failing to consider.
The word quisling comes from the former Nazi puppet ruler of Finland. The Russians naturally don't trust them.
They need 65% of the population across 27 EU countries to vote yes to form this thing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's a good possibility they can hover real close, if not get it.
I don't think they can get to 65% of the population.
The people have been propagandized so damn hard last 7 or 8 years. People, they're in the UK.
It's not. I take your point, Manila.
It's not buy meds and build bunkers.
It's not impossible. It's not impossible.
I think people are that propagandized. Is my.
But
point.
I think they'll fall short.
Not all of them.
They'll fall short of the 65. Is all I'm saying.
I think they'd get surprisingly close. Is my point.
All right.
Which tells you a lot about where the European public and remember, there are polls now done with the younger generation of the kids in college right now. Those would be the Gen Z kids. The Gen Z kids seem to be confusing who won World War II, what side the Soviets were on. They seem to think the Soviets were locked in goose step with the Nazis SS. Like, the kids don't know history anymore, Ted. So there's a chance that they can get real close to 65%. And if this happens, I think a lot of the US weapons grift might be over. And Trump will be very pissed if this happens under his watch. All I know. That one thing is for sure. Trump is going to be pissed that Emmanuel Macron is pitching this idea and Ursula von der Leyen is trying to lay the groundwork to make it happen.
Yeah, if I were Trump, I'd be like, well, this is my excuse to leave, But,
get out of NATO.
Yeah, it's kind of like, hey, you guys don't like us. Okay, bye.
Fine. We're out. Bye, bitches.
All right. A massive aviation industry clearinghouse, which processes data for 12 billion passenger flights per year, is selling that info to the Trump administration and to, this is all amid, of course, the new immigration crackdown. The data includes full flight itineraries, passenger name records, financial details, which are otherwise difficult or impossible to obtain. In other words, like you made your flight reservation. Not only do we know your name, but we know a credit card or debit card you use to pay for it, or points or whatever. And that all goes into a secretive government intelligence operation called the TIP, Travel Intelligence Program. And it's going to everyone's favorite cozy and warm agency, ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as the MOOC Squad. Details of this program are outlined in the procurement documents released Wednesday by ICE, which is, of course, a division of the Department of Homeland Security. Privacy and travel industry experts say that the cops' access to this database raises some serious civil liberties concerns. Duh. This is probably the single most significant aggregated repository of data about American air travelers. That, according to Edward Hasbrook, he's an expert on travel data privacy. That the government has gotten access to it is a very big deal. When a passenger buys a flight through a travel, if there's a problem with your flight, you don't have to go through the intermediary. You can just contact the airline directly at the airport.
Through the travel agency.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with like Travelocity, which is like, in Japan or whatever, India. So although most airline passengers have never heard of the ARC, there's a good chance that they have your data. The data set includes info on 54% of all flights taken of France. Is like when they do a census, for example, they don't collect any information whatsoever about your religion or your ethnicity. So the government of France doesn't actually know where all the Jews live or where all the Muslims live, or anything like that. They don't know where all the Algerian Frenchmen live. They don't know, and they used to know. Before World War II, they knew, and all that information was collected on cards, and they were kept in local police office precincts and places like that. Anyway, the problem is that, and it was all fine until 1940, and then when the Nazis invaded and occupied the country, and they were like, "Oh, it's time to round up Jews and homosexuals and gypsies and handicapped people," they just leisurely went over to their records, and they're like, "Oh, this is where Ted, the enemy of the state, lives. Let's go over to Ted's house and arrest him and put him on a train and send him to Auschwitz." That's what they did. That's how they found people. So after the war, the French government decided, we will no longer collect this information because this information is dangerous. Some information is just dangerous. Now, in this case, look, the obviously the
Jacobin. That's
and the TMI show.
And and us, like that's apparently it.
A U.S. infant with a rare medical condition has now become the first patient ever to be treated with a personalized gene editing technique that now raises hopes for other people with obscure illnesses. That, according to doctors, the kid is KJ Muldoon, a 9.5-month-old boy with blue eyes and chubby cheeks. I don't know why the chubby cheeks are important. Anyway, he was diagnosed.
So cute.
He was diagnosed with a rare and serious condition called CPS1 deficiency. That's a mutation in the gene that produces an enzyme that makes your liver function properly, and it prevents you from eliminating certain kinds of toxic waste produced by your metabolism. So if you Google GPS1 deficiency, and it's either fatal or you got to get a liver transplant, according to the mom. With the prognosis bleak, the doctors decided to do something radical. They decided to use a pair of molecular scissors. This is CRISPR. You've probably heard of it, CRISPR. And this particular technique is called CRISPR-Cas9. That won the Nobel for chemistry in 2020. In the end, the parents decided to have the kid treated with an infusion made just for him, a bespoke infusion to fix the mutation. And so once that tailor-made infusion goes into the liver, it will penetrate the cells and it will edit the bad genes. And of course, obviously, this is promising for all sorts of people with genetic conditions. I mean, at some point, I think we're going to find that probably even psychological conditions have a genetic component. Yeah. A lot of stuff have genetic components. This is all according to a new report in the New England Journal of Medicine. So this is I mean, I gotta say though, Manila, is this 100% new? What about that Chinese guy who went rogue? That Chinese scientist, and he used CRISPR to edit HIV sequences out of a little kid, out of I think in embryo or just
in
utero, and it happened, and then like it was either in utero or it was like right after birth. But anyway, he
turned the baby healthy. Yeah.
He cured the kid of HIV.
Of mom's AIDS. Yeah, mom's HIV. Yeah.
So therefore, the mom had HIV, but
dude was just way
normally
ahead
the baby
time.
would have, but in this case, now that the world came to, including the Chinese government, came down on him like a ton of bricks.
I know.
But he was basically like, it's wrong to let people die while we're waiting for this technology to be approved. Fuck it, I'm doing it.
I'm going to try it.
Isn't he really the first guy?
He should be, but because, he's a criminal for trying to save lives for free and not you can't, he didn't monetize this 10 years ago.
He's like Dr. Kevorkian. He went with his principles, right?
Yes. So yeah, Dr. Kevorkian, also bad rap. The Chinese scientist, bad rap. But this, there's no way they could have gotten here with baby KJ. And these are the two doctors that saved him. He's so cute. They couldn't have gotten here with baby KJ without that Chinese scientist doing this 10 plus years ago. It just, because science builds on one another.
The world owes that Chinese scientist an apology.
We don't know where he is anymore, Ted.
Yeah, well, I bet I have a pretty good idea where he might be.
I know, but this is
a May 4th farm.
Happy story. Oh,
getting re-educated.
This is an amazing advancement in science. Like, look at that little cutie pie with his cheeks. So
he's a good-looking kid.
Friday.
Most babies are so ugly.
I know, he's a pretty little baby. He could have died. And bespoke gene editing. Can you? The leaps and just catapults that science makes once you have one breakthrough, and then it's just boom, 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 boom. In the course of 20 years, not only, at first 20-ish years ago, Ted, IVF was, like this new breakthrough. It's been around a while, but they kind of perfected it roughly 25-ish years ago. Mm-hmm. And then now, not only are we at gene editing for treating, genetic disorders like this little boy has, but of course, then there's the evil. I don't know about evil, but the weird side, the Island of Dr. Moreau side of like, I want a Bjork-looking baby, Asian eyes, blue eyes, jet black hair.
We're going to get there. By the way, that doctor is he is named He Jiankui. He was released from prison in 2022 after being fined about $500,000. In 2023, he was back in a lab focusing on gene editing to cure muscular dystrophy and Alzheimer's. He moved to Hainan after being fired from another academic post. He doesn't have proper academic affiliations or a proper lab anymore. So he's thinking about maybe going to South Africa, which doesn't seem to care that much about these rules.
Huh. Well, I think he has the cred behind him. He's got street cred now.
Oh, yeah. This news will help him. He'll just be able to say, I'm sorry. I was 7 years early. Fuck you.
Right. I saved babies from being born with HIV and developing AIDS and dying from it before they're, 10 years old. Yeah. So I'm sorry I did that a decade earlier.
Yeah, I'm such a bad man.
But here you are. Happy Friday. It's a happy Friday story. This
See you guys Monday.
Wonderful, wonderful news. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button here on the TMI Show. We are working towards our second Rumble Premium episode, or whatever we want to call it. So anyway, have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Like and subscribe. Have a happy weekend. We'll be back on Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern, amigos.
Bye all.
Adios. Bye. Thank you.